Welcome back to the Titanium Hanger. Happy Friday, everybody. Hope everybody is doing well. Today I want to talk to you about collector confirmation. Now, this is something that almost all collectors do. They look for opinions in the community and other people to help them make a purchase decision or to make them feel better about their current Masterpiece Transformer $100, $300 purchase. What I'm here today to tell you is that is perfectly normal. It actually is very good and it is healthy, but it can have some minuses to it. There are pluses and minuses. We're going to discuss both ends of the coin right there when it comes to collecting and making purchase decisions for these very expensive figures or the feeling after the purchase decision. We'll talk about all of this and more coming up. So I'm going to start out with the positives, and first one is feeling good about the purchase that you make. Whether you buy a brand new figure, whether or not you're buying a secondhand figure, when there are many different options out there, and you want to pick the option that's right for you, and feeling good about that purchase decision is definitely a reason for a collector confirmation. See, right now we're having this Outrider, this Trailbreaker war is slowly continuing, and there's a lot of people out there talking about, well, if you already have a certain option, it's fine, that you probably don't need to upgrade to this Fans Toys one. There's other people out there that said, I'm so thankful I waited. This is one of the topics that is very two-sided. There are so many people out there that were waiting for the Fans Toys, but yet we still have another one, that Takara went on the way. So much out there, so much information, so many differing opinions out there that it's really hard to make a decision. I really do think in this case you can pick any one of those options and you'll be fine. But I like the Fans Toys one. I liked the X-Transbots one. I think those are still both decent options. And I have a bit of a good feeling about the Takara, even though I hear nothing but hate. The other positive about a collector confirmation or seeking out information or seeking out opinions from other collectors is so that you can make a proper decision or a proper decision that's good for you. Now, there are a lot of factors to consider when you consider Masterpiece Transformer purchases. Well, first of all, these Springer, there are so many Springers. Thanks to Cheem for updating all of his stuff that he's got going on right there. That's fantastic. These charts look amazing. But one thing I want to point out is that there is the transforming factor. So maybe if you want to flip it around a lot, maybe you don't want to get a certain particular one. You want to get a different one. Those are the kind of opinions that's very healthy. It's very positive to go get those opinions. And then some of the ones that say, hey, this is the most tune accurate of these, but it is maybe not fun to transform, or maybe it's not as stable. There's a lot of different things to look at when you look at this and you are collecting for you what fits your collection. Remember that, and seeking out the advice, the opinions of others can help when you have so many different options. The next positive is that you do not miss out on something. There's a lot of stuff out there that comes on the market and maybe it comes and it goes. Maybe you think it's going to be here forever, linger forever, and then the price gets really high, and then you just are outpriced. You don't want to spend $300 on an $80 figure. Some figures, we're thinking maybe down the road we'll get a repaint, but we don't know. Nobody really knows. And you could effectively miss out on a figure that maybe doesn't match exactly what you want. But seeking out information, it would be nice to know if there are plans for repaints in the future, but nobody really knows. So at this point, it's really all speculation when it comes to that. But missing out, is it worth missing out? A lot of people like to say, wait for the KO, and a lot of times you can wait for the KO, and technically you didn't really miss out because you got the same figure, except the original might have some premium paint or a few other things that are a little bit better. Sometimes the KO is even a little bit better in that fact there. So you don't really want to miss out. But I remember I felt that way back with MP36. Everybody had this amazing looking Megatron on the shelf, and I missed out until the KO came along. But sticking with this MP44 for a second, the next point I really want to bring up is value. Now, I hear a lot of people talk about this in the community. A lot of people say that you shouldn't be concerned with value. You shouldn't be concerned with what would it sell on the secondary market down the road. If you decide to sell it or need to sell it or for whatever reason, you should collect it for yourself. You should just enjoy it for yourself. And if you have to sell it at a loss, 50%, 70% loss, well, you got to enjoy it for 2-3 years. So $450 for this thing. And then if you can't get your money back out of it when you decide to sell it, they say don't worry about that. Well, I think that's a big concern. See, I'm here to confirm to everybody that value is extremely important. The expectation of being able to sell your stuff down the road and to recuperate that money, whether it's for an emergency reason, whether it's because you've changed the direction of collecting, maybe you just got tired of it, maybe you like the design of something else better. There's a whole lot of reasons to have a high level of concern about value down the road. I'm going to take this RoboSyn robot, this Optimus Prime auto-converting robot, and I'm going to tell you why value is so important. Now, I passed on it for $700. I am amazed that it even got made. It's so extremely complicated. It's amazing that they made this thing. But I'm going to point out that had I decided I just want one after it was released, I could have gotten one for $500, $550, or something along those lines, cheaper than the original $700 price. So what does that tell me? If I own one and I want to sell it, I might have trouble getting my $700 back out of it. Now, I'm not saying that you can't sell it for the $700. I'm just saying I see there's options out there that are cheaper than that. And I do want to point out at the very top of this, you see that very top one, that was a best offer accepted. Somebody could have offered $700. Someone could have offered $750 because it's sealed in the box. And this also goes to show that sealed in the box is worth a whole lot more than loose. And that's another argument. That's another thing that you want to go to the community and ask about this or seek some inquiry. Well, this is evidence, right? Why exactly am I focusing in on the RoboSyn? Well, the price is one. Yes, the Voltron from Blitzway 700, so that's a different ball game. This thing has a lot of small electronics in it, small parts. It's made up of a ton of different parts and pieces, and a lot of things that could go wrong on this. So if you're buying a used one, you might get one that has some sort of a problem with it. But then again, if you buy a new one, you could get one that has some sort of a problem with it. Now, I kind of hear a lot of people that they got this, they love it for 30 minutes, and then they don't really mess with it. It stands on the shelf, and it's kind of something that you show off at parties and on holidays and stuff. But it's still very, very impressive. And I am impressed that this thing even exists and ever got made. So this is where I switch to the dark side real quick. I started talking earlier this year about how when you sell stuff, if you sell more than $600 worth of stuff, you're going to get a 1099, and you have to deal with that on your taxes. You need to submit that. Do not ignore that. You will get in trouble. Well, now we've got a bill getting passed here in the U.S. It only really affects U.S. people, but a bill getting passed that's adding $80 billion to the IRS, and they're looking to hire about 87,000 more agents. Now, this is a bit skewed in a way because they're not all going to be auditors, but they do plan to make $200 billion over 10 years, all this stuff. But I want to point out, look at where the new audits are going to come when it comes to income levels. This is people driving Uber. This is people selling on eBay, Mercari, Facebook, and all this kind of stuff. I want to point this out to you. Don't go into trying to sell off your collection for $27,000 in 1 year and expect not to get some issues with the IRS. Dang, that turned to the dark side pretty quick. So, getting into the negatives. The negatives of collector confirmation, or trying to go get a confirmation from somebody else and other collectors of, should I buy this? That circles back to Lupus. Now, I got to tell you right now that this Lupus figure, I saw it selling for anywhere from $80 to about $120, depending on where you were to buy it. So you could have picked this up for $80 originally back in the day. I think the reissue is going to be $120 or $130. I actually don't know what the reissue price is going to be on this thing, but it is getting reissued now. There's going to be a KO that's going to cost more than I could have gotten the original one back in the day, and I missed out on this. So many other collectors missed out on this and admired it from afar for two reasons. Number one, a lot of people were like me and they weren't ready to get into Headmasters. We were working on season 1, 2, and not even really getting into the movie bots yet, so let alone Headmasters. And then this thing got horrible reviews. I remember hearing a lot of reviewers saying negative comments about this, and almost to the point like they were recommending not to buy it in a way, and it just depends on which review you watch. If you want to go back and watch those old reviews, they didn't really slam it super hard, but the feeling I got from it was it wasn't for me, especially because I wasn't really into the Headmasters, but then with a little bit of negative comments completely takes me out of the purchase decision. So I've been sitting without this thing for, what, 4 or 5 years? So we're about to see this Fans Toys Aussie, or their version of Outback, put out there. And I'm kind of curious how the influence is going to be on this figure. Now, this is a fringe figure that I don't think everybody really cares to have in their collection. It's not a character that everybody is scrambling to get in their collection. So with that, just a little bit of negativity could put a lot of collectors off to buying this. Now, that might do a few things. It might make it cheaper, go on sale, and all that kind of stuff. Or it can make it another one of those figures that people pass on and goes for some money down the road. Who really knows what's going to happen in the future? The next negative to this is feeling bad about your purchase decision. If you go and you buy something and then you go watch reviews and you want to hear everybody else tell you that it's wonderful, it's great, and you get inundated with the negativity, especially if you got the version 1 of this guy and you never had a problem with it, because there are people that were able to transform it, didn't have any problem with it. Ben's Collectible seems to not have a problem with this version 1 at all, so that was pretty cool. But looking at this, it's one of those things that it makes you feel bad about your purchase, especially when you're spending $160 on this, or even the $300 purchase. I mean, that's got to be even worse. Is you want to get that confirmation that you bought something that's good, and then you're sitting there seeing everybody else have problems. So in the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, down the road, mine's going to break, or something along those lines, or these issues that they're pointing out. I didn't really notice it at first, so then it starts getting to you. The last one is a negative that if you put too much stock in what other people think, you put too much stock in other people's opinions, you might buy the figure that's wrong for your collection. Now, when you are swinging at $300 price point, which this is going to be like $270, I think, for the Takara one, and you're getting, this is another one, you get a lot of hate because people are not happy with some of the recent Takara offerings that had issues like Hound. But I think they're correcting that. I think this will be a decent figure. I think this will be a very solid figure overall. So obviously everyone's comparing it to fans' toys and all that kind of stuff, but if you put too much stock in other people's opinions and you pass on this, then maybe you are going to miss out. Sometimes the wait and see for an actual release and people review it, it's too late. Sometimes they sell out. Or maybe you wait a little bit too long and they sell out. And then again, of course, everybody holds their breath. It could be 3 years till a KO comes out, and at this size and scale, maybe it won't even get a KO. I really believe now more than ever, people need to educate themselves for each purchase decision. When there are so many different options out there for just one character, and there is a back catalog of different companies' take on the same character, getting other people's advice is very important. But it should not be your only purchase decision. You need to go with your gut, go with your heart, and go with your mind if you're making a very expensive Masterpiece purchase decision. Of course, I want to know what you think in the comments below. Have you been in this situation? Have you been in any of these situations where you were seeking information, seeking opinions from the community, and you felt like, hey, that went well? Or the other way around, it was negative, and you regret your decision because you put too much stock in what others think? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Cut your hair out.